in a place that probably many of you never expected to go, probably where she never expected at first to go. Probably nobody's just a little girl thinking, I just can't wait to do this. But God has this sovereign way of taking you where He wants you to be. So I want you to welcome with me a lady who is going into some really fun, wonderful places that need a strong life for Christ. And this is somebody that does it. Her name is Dr. Christy Miller. She comes all the way from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So would you give it up for the Cajun sensation, Christy Miller?
Hey guys, good to be with you today. This snow is definitely unusual for me. We never get that in Louisiana, so really cool. But I'm here today. I work for Global Prison Seminaries Foundation. And so we are an entity that works to get theological education or seminary programs inside prisons. And I'm here because this school does that. I don't know if you knew that, but USW has a prison program, and Dr. Kirkpatrick goes in every week and teaches inmate students. So I've been working in the prison system for about 7 years. I've been a variety of positions in a prison. I first went there in the role that he's doing. I went into the women's prison in Louisiana to start an extension of the seminary where I was doing my PhD. I ended up working for the prison itself, ended up becoming an assistant warden in that prison, and now working for the foundation to get this kind of work in every state, a prison in every state, to have a theological education where we train inmates to be the ministers within that culture. So if you're wondering why we do that, it's because that we think for the culture of the prison to really change, it has to change from within. So if we can create ministers from within and let them then be agents of change to heal the hearts of the broken within the prison, that we will really see a difference. And then our society will be impacted as well as those people come back to us more healthy and whole. But I did not seek out prison work at all. I had no idea I would end up in that world. As a matter of fact, I would say even now, even though I love prison work and that's where I spend most of my time, I would say even now I don't have a particular calling to the incarcerated. I had no idea my path would take me where I am, but I was operating in a mindset of a calling, and maybe you have a sense of a calling on your life. My calling was simply this, that I want to see everyone, no matter who they are, no matter what they've done, no matter where they come from, I want to see them walk in a fullness of life. I want to see them walk in victory and peace and contentment and joy, the way in which God intended for them to live. I want that for myself. Jesus modeled that for us. His life was not easy, yet He is the model of peace and contentment and joy and even happiness, even in the middle of a chaotic and crazy world. And I want that for myself, because we've got to stop thinking if everything lines up, then I can be happy and I'll have a full life. When all these people stop bothering me or all these pieces fall into place, we've got to stop thinking that's going to be the answer. So Jesus modeled that, and I want that, and I live to have that happen in other people. I live to help try to make other people whole. I believe that I want to leave everybody better than I find them. I believe that I add value to my life when I help other people become people of value. So I'm all about investing in other people. That's just what does it for me. And if I had time today, I would love to sit and listen to all of your stories. Your students here, so you have a goal in mind. You have dreams and hopes that you're working to. You're not here aimlessly, I don't think. And so I would just love to hear each one of your stories and hear what you feel you're called to, where you think you're going to find purpose, and maybe what your pain is and your hurts, and let's talk through that. And I would just love to speak truth into that, because that's just what I live to do. I'm not going to have time to do that today, obviously. So I just want to say a few things to you. And the first thing is, make sure that you're pursuing what really matters. Make sure you're asking the questions that really matter, because this is what I know for sure. I know that all of your academic and career success and financial success and any other titles and toys and positions that you can gain is not ultimately going to do it. It's not going to produce that sense of satisfaction and meaning in your life like we always seem to think that it will. But it will not. All of that stuff is building up the outward man. We all have an outward man, an outward person, and that's what the world sees, and that's what the world puts value on. In other words, the world says you're a valuable person based on what they see of you. Are you beautiful? Do you have money? Do you have a position? Are you successful in your career? Do you have financial positions? Etc., etc. That's what the world values. And for some reason, we always think that that is what really gives us value. But it does not. Because we have an outer person, but we also have an inner person. Our inner man, that we call it, genderly neutral speaking, but our inner man, our soul. And that is the part that we're taking into eternity. Everything else of our outward that we spend all of our time and effort in building up will not last. We will not take it with us. It can be taken from us. And yet, that's what we spend all of our time on. And so, to the point that our inner person, the real person, who we really are, is withering away and dying. Jesus said it like this: what does a man profit if he gains the whole world but loses his soul? That's 3 times in the New Testament. Matthew, Mark, and Luke all record Jesus' words. What does a man profit if he gains the whole world? He spends his whole life working on the outward man, and yet forfeits the person that's truly him, the person that's going to live for eternity, his soul. And if you don't want to take Jesus' words for it, watch VH1. Watch the celebrity stories. Where are they now? It's the same narrative, isn't it? I had it all. I had everything I had hoped for. I achieved everything I could possibly want and then some, and yet I was miserable. It's the same narrative. Why can we not learn this? Why do we still default on seeking to build the outward man that will not last and will not satisfy? We can seek to gain the whole world and chase after every desire that our mind and body longs for, but we will end up bankrupt every time. And that is why we're seeing just this unbelievable plague of anxiety and depression on our younger generations. We have so much, and we're seeking this elusive dream of finding value in our outward man, and it's leaving us bankrupt every time. When, at what point are we going to wake up and realize maybe Jesus had this right? Our inner man is becoming weak and emaciated. So make sure that you're pursuing what really matters. Make sure that you're asking the right questions, and that you're looking at things that really matter. And I know this, and I'm speaking this to you, but I want to know it more, and there's something in me that does want to, I long for a greatness of soul that this world cannot touch. We only get one life. We only get to do this one time. I want my life to matter. I want to leave behind something significant. I want to be happy. I think you probably do too. And so, in that, wanting a greatness of the soul, how do we evaluate ourselves in our life and ask the right questions and do the right things? Well, it just so happens that my prison work has provided such an opportunity for me to learn what builds the soul. It's given me a great opportunity to evaluate my own standing as I look at other people and I think, gosh, how did they get there? And could that happen to me? Is what's in me that could lead me down that path? Because in the prison setting, you're dealing with the base of humanity. All that is depravity on display. Everything has been stripped away. If you want to see what deprivation does to a person, if you want to see what happens when kids are raised when they lack the basic needs of security, emotional needs, the reality of a roof over your head on a regular basis. If you want to see what deprivation will do to people, look in our prison system, because that's where these kids end up. And it makes me think, what if I didn't have the comforts and security and the support that I had? Would I end up any different? It's easy to make judgments and to ridicule, but are we sure we're any better? It's easy to look at certain people and say them and us, but are you sure? When you get down to the very base of humanity, what really is different about us? And not everybody in prison is there because of deprivation. Some of them have had all the security and comforts of their life that I've had, and even more so. One of my seminary students is a multi-millionaire. She had everything you could want from a worldly perspective. Extremely successful, but she got caught up in an unhealthy relationship, and it led her to do things that she never thought she would have done, and she ended up killing someone. And so before you judge and think, I would never do that. Well, have any of us ended up in an unhealthy relationship that took us further than we wanted to go and led us to do things that we're now ashamed of? Are we sure we're any different? And so don't misunderstand me. I'm not a bleeding liberal trying to get everybody out of prison. I hold the justice system in this hand, and I believe that we need a healthy justice system because there are victims out there. And people, if you do the crime, you do need to do the time. I'm not negating that. I'm not trying to get anybody out of prison. But I also hold in this hand God's redemption system. And that we can hold both of those in tandem and realize that there is no life that cannot be redeemed and brought back and brought to a place of health and wholeness, no matter what. And this was my very first lesson in doing prison work. I realized that God's love is much greater than I thought. Because all of a sudden, here I am on the other side, working in a prison system, and when I turn on the local news and I see this horrific crime that a woman has done, and that everybody in society is having a great time hating this woman and saying, throw her under the jail, put her to death, throw her away, she doesn't deserve to live. And I'm watching the news thinking, she's coming to me. She's coming to me. God, you expect me to minister to her? God, you expect me to show her love and kindness? Come on, God. Let's throw her away. But nothing in the Word lines up with that. He doesn't throw us away. He demands that I love like Jesus loved. And that was my first reality of the same grace it takes to save me is the same grace it takes to save them. The ground is level at the foot of the cross. His love is so much greater than I first thought. We are all broken and we're all desperate in need of God's grace, no matter what. And that makes me marvel at this great God. It makes me want to know Him more, because I have seen Him redeem those kinds of women, the women I would have thrown away easily. The second big thing in prison that helped me evaluate this greatness of soul is that I'm more broken than I thought. So His love is greater than I thought, and I'm more broken than I thought. Because we all reach for something to make us feel better. We all have things we hide behind. We all have things we plug the holes in our hearts that gives us a little temporary release. We're hiding behind things. We're hiding behind possibly our families, our title, our money, our security, things that bring you security, your relationships, your looks, whatever it may be, that you reach for, that you pull up, that you find value in, that you think people will value you because of. But when you go to prison, all that's stripped away. It didn't matter what you had on the streets. It didn't matter who you were. Now you're just a number and you're despised by society. You have nothing of value anymore that the world would say is of value. That's the real you. So if I got stripped of everything that I find comfort in, my academic success, my career, my family, my health, all these things that I find plugs holes in my heart, relationships, whatever the case may be. If all of that got stripped and just the real me is naked and exposed, am I comfortable with her? Am I okay with her? But that's what a prisoner is faced with. And just a couple of weeks ago, Dr. Kirkpatrick and Dr. Guerrero came to my prison and sat and visited with some of my graduates and listened to them. And they both commented on the fact that, I can't believe these women have such joy. So these are a handful of women who are serving life that are never going to get out of prison. Some of them have been in prison 20 and 30 plus years already. They have long been abandoned by their families. Many of them do not have a single human being on the outside of that prison that care about them. Yet they sit there with such peace and joy and speak about having purpose and meaning in their lives. And what they didn't get to see is these women are treated horribly by the prison personnel. So they are constantly reminded on a regular basis that they are the rejects of society. And yet they sit there with peace and joy and contentment and purpose in their lives. A lot like Jesus modeled. Why? Because they have a strength of soul, a greatness of soul that this world can never take away or touch. They understand, I have value because I'm made in the image of God. He has a calling and a purpose on my life. Their value doesn't come from the outward man. They don't have that luxury. And so therefore, they have pressed in and found out who they really are, and their inward person has grown and been made strong, and I want that kind of stoutness of heart. I actually have an additional career to the prison work, and that I'm a hospice nurse as well. And so I take care of dying people, and I see the same thing in them. If we all live long enough, we're going to live to the point that our bodies are going to fail us, and they're going to embarrass us and shame us if you live long enough. And so my dying patients who no longer can do the basic care of their own bodies, and they're dependent on other people to do that for them. And they've been stripped of everything, and maybe they were powerful people in their prime, but now nobody cares. They have nothing to offer the world. And so they're at this point too of having nothing to lean on in their outward man that the world values. And all they're left with is the naked and exposed inward man. And some of them, it's not ending well. They're dying a miserable death. But some of them have a greatness of soul, and they understand who they are, and they do not gain their value on what the world says about their outward man. They understand who they really are. And if we're ever going to see this tide turn in our generation of this crazy, overwhelming sense of anxiety and depression and unhappiness that we're seeing in our younger generation, it's going to come from people who are saying, I got to start asking the right questions and seeking what really matters, and stop spending all my time on gaining the outward man and say, what is going to take care of my soul? Where is my soul sick? How can I tend to my soul so that I can have a greatness there that will last throughout eternity? What does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? So I just want to encourage you, invest in your soul. Start with just being God aware. Your soul is the part that can communicate and recognize God. Just like the song we sang about. Let us become more aware of your presence. So let it start there. Be God aware. What are you telling me, God? Because God is faithful. He's going to show you where your soul is sick. And so start listening and say, what's the next step you want me to take? You just listen and obey, and listen and obey. And I pray that you will leave the school and go into your career path with a strength of soul that the world will notice, and that it would not be said of us that we've gained the whole world, but we've lost our soul. So thank you for letting me come today. I appreciate the administration having me and all that the school is doing in the prison program. I pray that you guys will find out more about that, be excited about what your school is being part of to impact the kingdom and change lives in New Mexico. Thank you.